Now, Father, I do wish you could meet Mordeleg the Farlander. He was so kind and full of mystery and stories. James had read his best approximation of what was spoken in that strange message at the party to Mordeleg, and I thought he did a pretty good job.
I wrote it phonetically. I don't know how the language works. All right, here we go. Ta, cosent, Cassor, ag ti, act hun, dia de agas, filvivsi tar riskent, has ter skol ek madu hen, he winces, mo has si or fahu, o in mas, card ad fastu. I think that last part was a question.
That's remarkably close to how I remember hearing it.
Is it?
That was really impressive, honestly.
I'm used to reading nonsense. So, did that mean anything to you?
Mordeleg sits quietly and scratches his beard a little bit.
I cannae say that I can translate from the first tongue. I don't know it myself, but I do recognise the name Cassor in there. You know the story of Cassor? Do they still teach the old legends out here in the East?
I'd love to hear it.
Oh, well, Cassor's a story of the world before time began, before history had memory, way back in ancient times.
James asks, should I brew some tea?
Aye, that'd be grand.
He makes himself busy in the kitchen, putting on a pot of water.
I sit dutifully listening, because I like stories.
So, I feel like your note must be related to this ancient story as you spoke the name Cassor. The tale of Cassor is a tale from ancient times, from when the whole world around us was one land, and all mankind had not the power they have today. No, this is the time in which the Draocht Pobal were the ones that reigned. Back then, the world was full of magic and mystery permeated everything. Everything except for we poor humans. We've never had access to true magic. We can't access and control the world around us in the same way, and we found ourselves at the mercy of them as could, at the mercy of the Draocht Pobal. Bound in service, we were but cattle to most of the Draocht. But no all the Draocht agreed that this was the way it should be, and there was one who wanted to see what mankind could do, free to choose their own path. That Draocht was named Cassor. He was a powerful fae, but he had a soft heart for us humankind. He came to believe that those in his care should be equipped with tools to make their life easier. And so, he commissioned twin magic smiths, Inoen and Piok, to make tools infused with the magic of their world. He gave these tools to humankind. Oh, but the trouble with elevating humans up, as you well know, is that we can be jealous. And it wasn't long after we'd gotten these skills and the tools to control the world around us that we became jealous of our overlords. And so rebellion was fomented. Now, this war, well, it couldn't have lasted long if it weren't for Cassor and the twins, those three who cared about humankind and wanted to see us flourish. Inoen and Piok, they built weapons and armour so we could stand against their kind. But for all the effort, it seemed that all this would do was just delay our inevitable defeat. The Draocht were powerful magic people. And so Cassor joined the fight. He commissioned a spear that was to be unlike any other spear. The spear would aid him because Cassor had become remorseful of the divide he'd created. He wanted to see peace and harmony again, you see. And so Cassor's spear was forged. It had all of the magic that Inoen and Piok and Cassor could pour into it. Cassor called a Council of the Winds, where the Draocht Pobal and the representatives of human together could meet and agree to terms for peace. But the meeting didn't go well. Both sides argued, they accused, and would not see eye to eye, Cassor became dismayed and decreed that if humankind and the Draocht Pobal could not live in peace together, then they'd live in peace separate. And he used the spear and he thrashed it with all his might and magic at the earth at his feet, The strike, it shattered the world, it split the realms. The Draocht Pobal were banished to a realm with all the magic and, well, we humans were left here, in this world as we know it now, It's said that the breaking of the worlds put a barrier over the realm of mankind so we could live in peace, far from the interference of the magic Dreocht. No one knows how long it'll last, but there are legends out west, where I'm from, warning that one day the barrier will fade and eventually the two realms will be joined together again. This person who interrupted your princess ball with violence is speaking in the first tongue, and he knows the name of Cassor. Well, he likely knows the stories that come from the lands around my home.
Why is he likely to have been from where you are from?
No, I can't say for sure that he is, but there's a few clans still left rumoured to speak the first tongue. And from what little I've seen of the people of Ealanwick, of the land of Kellybrook, you've all forgotten the old ways. You've forgotten long ago the stories that were shared, You settled, you made tools, you lived well in these confining boxes. But if you were to visit my homeland, you'd see we live a much different life. We live in union with the land, moving about with the tide, with the seasons. We share fire and stories, meals and hopes, we don't call a particular place home. Our legends, like that of Cassor, belong to everyone under the stars, and they're still told to us.
Thank you for telling us.
You're welcome.
James spent most of the story leaning up in the doorway to the kitchen area, writing quickly in shorthand in his notebook. I think he brings over the 3 cups with tea now and says, "Not all of us have forgotten."
Some of us are still looking. You're right that they don't tell them very often, but I know of a few, and I've been looking for more. James knows a lot of them.
From what you say, if it's only a matter of time before that magic breaks down, from what we saw at that ball, I think the time is close. It wasn't just a man in a wolf skin. There were creatures. They weren't any animals. They were more human than animal, but not human at the same time.
Well, that is likely to be an omen of the apocalypse.
Good old apocalypse.
Those are some strong words.
Well, we're all living on borrowed time.
So you don't think it's a legend at all?
Some may say so, but to me it's history. It was just written before history had memory, as I said before.
You said Dreocht. Is there a modern word for that?
A modern word? No that I know. It's just the name of their people.
Right. Okay.
Do we know what they looked like? What kind of people?
Deities or the elves or...
Oh, some might call them elves, aye. Others fae and others, other creatures. I mean, since the splitting of the realms, they were sent to one separate from ours.
Hey.
Legends say there's some that sneak through the barriers, pixies, gnomes, banshees, plenty of others. He's not a perfect seal. That's what I've always been told, but it works well enough. But you have to remember, these are the people who are infused with magic. It comes as natural to them as breathing does to you. They controlled it. They respect it, and they can be very, very dangerous.
Don't you think we've gotten some maybe visiting for a while now? Not maybe the same creatures, but other magic?
Aye, well, there's certainly legends of visitations, and my ancestors certainly sought them out, It said back when Cassor shattered the world at the waters, the sea, that's what came up from underground and broke apart everything. Some in my family, anyway, they believe that the waters themselves are the magic barrier.
Oh, wow.
Speaking of waters, these people in Kellybrook, they're, as you call them, I think, wee boxes. People don't like to think about these sorts of things, and they don't like to leave those little boxes. Yours is nice, looks around. They keep you well here, but do you ever want to leave?
To have an answer to your question, you'll have to charm him.
I'm happy to charm him.
Charming Japes over here.
So when you ask the question, he gets a little bit of a sad look and turns and looks out the window to the west.
Okay.
It'll be, I think it's probably average, but it has 2 setback for it.
2 setbacks, huh?
Yeah.
Good thing I have a knack for it.
Oh,
0 successes, 2 threats.
That's not good.
Well, I think that's enough for today. Go on, get away with you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for talking to us.
We appreciate it. There is a boat leaving tomorrow morning for the west.
There are boats leaving every day. I can't be on them.
You could be.
Look, thank you for the offer, but it's just no possible. You take care of yourselves now.
Most definitely.
And Mordeleg kind of curls up with the tea that you made and kind of half scoots the rocking chair out the window and ignores you now.
Oh, I want to ask more questions.
He doesn't appear to be answering any more questions.
I wanted to know if you will let me come visit him again.
You certainly can ask, but there will be no answer.
Okay.
We just have to take out all the guards.
Hope to see you soon. Have a good evening.
Oh, and if you see Penny, tell him to bring me my cheese.
He just rocks quietly.
And we let ourselves out.
Yep, James puts all his stuff back in his bag and we head out.
That was fascinating. Had you heard that before?
I had not. Oh, wait 1 second. Turns to the guard. You should be ashamed for keeping this man in this prison. All right, let's go.
You're right. Really wanted him to go with you. I wanted to break him out.
Quiet.
Thought we'd already walked away. Thought we were, in my head, we were 10 feet away.
We're still in the Timber Court Citadel.
Still in the fort, surrounded by olive green uniforms, red sashes, and gold tassels.
And very tall hats.
So what's next for you lot?
Apparently I'm not supposed to say anything around the guard, so I'm like...
Just keep quiet. They're always listening. Turning into carp.
Next thing I'll know, you'll want a sword on your back.
Someday. Spear. Cassor's spear.
I'm not stopping for souvenirs. But I'm going to grab your sleeve and just be like, we're fast walking out because I'm
we're going.
He's shutting me up, but I want to talk, so let's go.
And then we get back to our bicycles.
Right. Take the long scenic route.
Yeah, I think we're not going to see each other for a while. We head up to that one, it's a hill, right? That James showed Ivy at one point. I think we head up to that hill where you can see the city and the ocean. Maybe we grab some sandwiches on the way.
Yeah, you're along the coastline now. I'm sure there's some vendors around the way.
All right.
But yeah, you make it up to the top of the hill. It's a little bit of a trek. It's one of those where you can ride your bike if you get enough momentum about halfway up, and then
it's better to walk. Yeah.
Yeah. But this hill is just along the coast. A kind of unique topographical reason why Ealanwick is where it is. It's got this long, deep river that comes through the middle of town that heads all the way up to its source in the capital. That divides the town. But the other reason why there's a port here and not necessarily many other places in Kellybrook is that the rest of the coastline, by and large, is cliff faces. The hill comes out from where it hits the harbor in both directions until it drops off and kind of a sheer overlook. And at the top of this hill is a rather large oak tree that looks out into the bay and out to the sea.
James puts down his bag at the foot of the oak tree, and I think they find places to lean the bikes. James says, I think Lockwood's got room. Can you make sure Lockwood takes my bike in and doesn't lose it while I'm gone?
Good idea. Yeah. They're out of town. I'll put it in there.
I'm not paying for my apartment while I'm out of town.
Is someone else going to move in there? Are you moving out?
Well, I had to. It costs too much to keep.
Yeah. Wow. It is weird to leave that fast, but...
I would say something and then you would say something to Lockwood, and then Lockwood would get all Lockwoody about things. And Lockwood, he can handle anything. I feel like he would tell somebody, and then it would get around to the people I work with. And
I hear you. So did you get what you were hoping for? Is it a good enough lead?
It's a lead. It's not a translation.
That's true. I thought he'd go more into that.
That was an interesting story.
You heard the guy's name in the speech?
Yeah, it's in there. Cassor.
Do we even know? Did he know the language?
No, he didn't. He said some of his people did, so.
Right.
If I get that far west, I might find somebody who speaks it, assuming they speak the language that you and I are speaking, so that we can have some sort of translation happening.
I have so many questions. So where is the boat going? Are you going west?
I know I'm going west. Beyond that, I don't know.
Are you just boarding a ship that's leaving and like stowing away, or?
I'm not stowing away. But yeah, I'm just boarding a ship that's leaving.
And you don't know where you'll end up or where they're going to drop you off.
West.
West.
That's what I asked for.
It's definitely exciting. It's not boring.
I'll learn where I'm going when I get there.
I hope you have a lot of stamps in your bag. I hope they have post.
I'm sure the clown trade company's got places where they can send stuff off.
Well, I finished my sandwich, by the way, and I've gotten out my sketchbook and I'm avoiding eye contact and I'm just sketching as I look and talk.
Finished your sandwich very quickly.
Yes.
You must have been hungry.
I was really hungry.
What's in the sketchbook today?
Just the view. Maybe. I've actually been sketching that weird creature more than I would like to because I just can't get it out of my head.
The wolf guy.
Well, no, his creatures.
The wolf guys.
I thought they were like wolf, like beasts.
They were wolf-ish.
Were they like man?
They were man-ish.
They were wolves. They were weird wolves, but they were wolves.
Okay.
To James, they are something different
Why?
because that's what James is into.
Okay.
James took note of their odd anatomy.
Okay. This is what I've got. Is this how you remember it?
No, the front leg, the back leg went the other way.
And I like draw over it like that.
Yeah,
And I hope we figure this out. I hope we never see them again. That no.
That's good.
What?
It was messy.
Oh, you mean the victim with the red sash?
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard about it. Let's not talk about that.
So what are your plans? What are you up to? What are you going to do in the next, 4 or 5 months?
That long, huh? I guess, yeah, travel by sea is pretty long. I'm just going to go with that. 4 to 5 months tops. Expect to hear something by then.
Put it in the calendar.
I will. And make sure you come back alive. Well, I have to enroll in another class. It's just the right thing to do. I wish I was going on an adventure, but I'm going to explore the city. I'm looking forward to the harvest we've been working on on the terrace and teaching Penny about some of those plants we're growing.
About working with your hands.
Yeah.
I mean, Penny knows about that Lockwood, though.
He promised they would teach me some sword stuff. I only learned a little when I was little. That's probably the most exciting thing I have going. But this whole city is exciting. There's still lots to explore.
Have you heard from your family?
Yes. I write with my dad, and he keeps me updated. But it's the usual. He's working. They're doing the family stuff. My mom wants to know when I'm coming home. And that's why I'm taking another class.
At least they want you to come home. That's nice.
You don't talk much about your family.
No.
Does anybody want you to come home?
No.
Gosh, that was a really callous question then.
It's fine. It's fine. It comes up every once in a while. I never knew my dad. And there's nobody else.
Well, you've got us, and we'll want you to come back. You have people that care about you.
I'll be back. I do wish I got to know Lockwood and Pickleson a little bit more before I left, but they've got their own thing going on.
I'll make sure they send lots of letters to you if we figure out how to.
If you figure out how to, I'll see what I can do. I'll try and figure out the course while I'm out there. And
You just don't know why you're going.
I do know why I'm going. I just don't know where I'm going. I know why, how, when, who, it's me, what, it's a boat, but not where.
Okay, but I asked you about the research, and you said you didn't know what it was for.
It's for me. It's for my book.
Your book. And you're just taking it where you can go and finding out what you can find out.
If I can find more people like Mordeleg who have stories to tell about their own personal myths and histories of different places, stuff that...
Okay, I get this about you. I get this now. This makes sense. Collect the stories and bring them back. It's going to be so good.
It's more than that. It's history, it's anthropology, it's the people. The stories are the stories of us.
I can't wait.
Me neither.
Well, I'm glad you told someone so that we don't, freak out. I'll take care of your bike.
I would have left a note.
You would have left a note. Well, I'm still glad you said something. A note. Goodness. You have to come back and visit old Morty with me again when you come back. That guy, there's more to that, but I guess his story times are short.
Maybe I'll bring him back something from where he comes from.
Oh, I hope you do. I wonder what it would be.
Cheese, probably. Seem to like cheese. I don't know if it'll last, the boat ride.
Get it waxed. Okay. Sun's setting.
We should probably ride back.
You take the shorter way this time.
Well, it's hills. It's great.
Yeah.
Be nice and easy.
Okay.
We pull up in front of the Dicey Cantina. I think it is nighttime now. What does the street look like?
The fog from the bay rolls in pretty early on as the sun goes down. The gasworks are lit, so you've got the street lamps along the way. You've got just in front of the Dicey Cantina is a cobblestone road, and there's a warm glow comes from the window outside from the cantina. You can see the third shift regulars are in there. It never seems to really die down inside the Dicey Cantina.
James looks up to see if the light's on at Lockwood's.
It's off.
Yeah. Guess this is it.
So don't lose your way back. Glad to hear you're still coming back. And I have the folded piece of paper, like folded in half from my little sketchbook that I tore up. Thanks for showing me that spot. I'll keep recording the seasons for you.
Taken, wanna look at it?
It's the view of what we were looking at, of the spot that you showed me. And I put a few of the little constellation that I could see, like little dots. So, and sort of a nod of like nautical path home, like this is where we are, the sky and all that. Like, make sure you find your way back.
James smiles and puts it in his bag and rummages through his sketchbook and pulls out the sheet that he was drawing. Hands it to Ivy.
What's this?
That's just what I was drawing. It's some little winged people sort of dressed in natural things with acorns and pine cones and those little whirly seed pods that twirl in the fall. And one of them has an outfit made out of ivy.
It's great. I love it.
Thanks. If I see anything else out there, I'll be sure to draw it and send it your way.
Did you see these?
Yeah, I did.
Where?
It was one of the first magical things I've ever seen, just outside of town when I was a kid.
Oh, wow. Only the once?
Just the once. It was a long time ago.
I'll add it to my list to keep an eye out for. I'm always looking for the petaled ones, flowery ones. I'll look for the oak ones now.
James hops on his bike.
Thanks for sharing with me.
Have a good semester.
Bon voyage.
He rides away into the fog and rings the little bell on his bike.
And she waves, knowing he doesn't see her, and then goes inside.
As Ivy goes into the Dicey Cantina, there's the usual rambunctious noise of the patrons enjoying their drink and whatnot. But as she walks past the bar, Brack calls out, Ivy, this came for you. He hands her a letter from her father.
She would kind of plunk down at the bar there and take it. And I guess she would be like about to look through it, but she might also just kind of put her elbows up and maybe rest her head on her hand and just be like, oh, because she's had a day and that was a long day. And there's a lot, and there's like thoughts and emotions, and things are very different all of a sudden. And she might just sit there. I don't know if you want to talk about it or not.
Well, Brack he's cleaning a glass. He's got a rag and a glass.
Right,
and he's kind of, cleaning the inside of this glass. And he sees Ivy sitting, clearly having had a day. He just kind of side eyes her for a second. He's like, do you want to talk about it?
Oh, I don't know. James is leaving tomorrow. Don't know if he'll ever come back alive or not, or when.
Oh, James, I liked that guy. So Ivy has this letter that she has. She gonna look at it, or she want to process a little bit about what's happening with Brack?
She looks at it to see who it's addressed from.
From her dad.
She looks at it. She looks at it knowingly, like, letter from dad. They have been corresponding for a little while. And so she doesn't open immediately. She doesn't expect anything of urgency. And she just kind of looks at it knowingly, taps it on the counter a couple times thoughtlessly, and is just taking a breather is what's happening here. She doesn't want to go up and be alone yet, and she thinks Brack is friendly, and it's always kind of fun to just hear the men in the background, and it kind of can take your mind off things. Sometimes there's silly stuff.
And what was the last thing that Ivy wrote to her dad?
So I think that the last thing she might have talked about was how the terrace garden is going along, that she has helped Mr. Pickleson grow on Lockwood's terrace, balcony, whatever we call that. She would have been talking about update of the garden because that's something that she really likes and follows back from her gardening at home, where she had a little corner plot that was all hers in her mother's larger garden. So she likes telling him how the things are doing and what's new and blooming.
So Ivy's just holding on to the letter. She's not reading it yet. And she's hanging out at the Dicey Cantina bar. There's all sorts of folk just kind of milling about. The general air of the Dicey Cantina, exhausted workers go to blow off steam. And so there's quite a few folks that are just kind of hunched over a drink and staring off into space. There's always the corner that's a little bit more rambunctious with, we'll say, darts. You can always hear roars and cheers of the crowd. It's usually very crowded in here, particularly at this time, as the sun has just gone down and there's no more work that can be done, really. Everybody's kind of piled in. What's Ivy up to at the bar?
I think right now she was just sitting with her thoughts and maybe trying to clear her head, or she's replaying, I guess, the last few hours with James and their little adventure. And so new little bits kind of pop into her head. Oh yeah, what was that about? And, processing it and coming up with questions that she didn't think to ask at the time that now she's wondering about, while kind of replaying parts of the day, simultaneously sort of trying to not think about it. She's also sort of exhausted, and she knows that she might get a little sad, and it's just too much and too many questions, and she's tired. So she's trying to just let the environment kind of sink in and clear her mind in a way. She doesn't want to think about anything. She just wants to sit there and listen to the background.
And what does she do next?
I think eventually she realizes she's really tired and that she's not thinking anything, and her body feels heavy. And she says goodnight to Brack, and she goes upstairs, thudding her feet up the stairs, and she decides that she's gonna sit on her bed after she's gotten ready for bed real quickly, and just gets out her little sketchbook that she had on the hill, and she's gonna just do a quick sketch that for some reason something from home came to mind, because it was what she does know, and it's familiar, and it's not full of questions. And right now she's thinking, everyone I know here is gone. My neighbors next door are gone. James is essentially gone, and I don't know what I'm gonna do next. But home is something I can latch onto without mystery. And so she finds herself doodling a little picture of some of her prized flowers at home. But it's just a quick sketch to kind of clear her mind. That's what her hand finds it does when she's not thinking. I think that maybe she stuck, she sat the letter down and was going to read it in bed, but when she got ready and then she got back in bed, it just happened that she started sketching instead and essentially forgot to pick up the letter again and falls asleep where she's done her little sketch.
A letter from your father is sitting next to you is next to a sketch of home. Some of the flowers that you had grown probably drifted off to sleep, right? It wasn't her intention to fall asleep, but it's been a long day. And so the little candlelight burns, or the little lantern burns and flickers, having not been blown out, showing us scene of the sketch in the letter. What does Ivy dream about?
The first thing that pops in my head is basically, because they had talked about James leaving on a ship, is her being on a ship in a really dreamy way, seeing herself sailing off kind of on this wispy, cloudy dream boat into some purpley night sky. Maybe she feels afloat in the world and not anchored to something, and her subconscious is gonna sail away.
It's a rather pleasant dream. The wispy boat sailing to far-off adventure feels like a pleasant calling in the dream. Feels like a place of belonging. there's a change. The wind begins to howl a little bit, and then there's a connection of the howling to the wolves at the masquerade ball. The sky turns dark. There's a moment where aboard this boat that is starting to come apart in the breeze, the clouds are wisping away, that Ivy turns and sees the face of the man. A loud growl of the beasts. Ivy is startled awake.
That sounds terrifying and so uncomfortable to wake up in her tiny little, what now I imagine to be kind of cold and drafty room away from home.
Yeah, the room feels empty. It feels isolated. There's the flicker of the lamplight and the sketch of home and the letter from your father. The rest of the room is dark.
She looks over and there's literally just the one thing. There's a letter from her dad and she hasn't opened it. And so she immediately grabs it and kind of hopes that that will take her mind off it and bring her back to the comfort of her home that she's not feeling at all in this physical place.
Thank you for listening to the latest episode of the Foxglove Letters. We hope you've enjoyed the adventure so far and can't wait to see where the story goes. Before we go, we want to let you know that we love hearing from our listeners. If you have a question for our players, their characters, a comment on the story, or just want to say hello, drop us a line at diceycantina@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Instagram and YouTube at diceycantina for behind-the-scenes artwork and world building. Or if you just prefer to chat, join the Discord. Links to everything are in the show notes. If you're enjoying the show, please consider giving us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcast platform, as it helps us grow the show and reach more listeners. The Foxglove Letters is a creation of Dicey Cantina, playing Genesis by Edge Studio. Until next time, dear listeners, don't forget the words of Mr. Cunningham when he said, "Don't just watch the world pass you by. Reach out and grab the stars."